What is something shady going on in your neighborhood? So this all happened recently. Neighbor A and neighbor B live beside each other. Neighbor A plays music too loud one night, so neighbor B threw a brick through their window. Neighbor A then comes to the only logical conclusion out there and gets 10 of his friends together, goes to the local petrol station with a wheelie bin and fills it full of petrol. Proceeds to break the living room window, insert the bin full of petrol into said living room and then throw a petrol bomb in to light it. Me and the lads were staging a poker night in my house across the street and watched it all go down. Got it on video mayhaps? No, and even if I did I wouldn't be putting it on here. These fuckers are crazy and the house burning ones are involved in organized crime. House is rented out but nobody lives there. Once a month or so 2 really nice German sports cars with privacy tinting pull into the garage for a couple of hours and then leave. Obviously it's a fuck house. Rich guy brings his not wife there, does sex and leaves. This is the correct answer. We had one in our neighborhood and it was the worst kept secret among the neighboring homes. Everyone knew a local rich dude took his mistress there. We, kids, actually used the backyard to hang out in, since 99% of the time the house was empty. Actually got in one time because the back door was left open. The only room that was even remotely decorated was the bedroom. Big jacuzzi in the ensuite bathroom too. Total fuck house. Every night, at exactly 0:03, a badger runs across the garden walk opposite my house, every damn time. Put food in his path each night and gain his trust. Eventually he will bring other badgers and you will slowly gain their trust too. In time you will have an army of badgers loyal only to you. Then when one of them fights with exceptional bravery, he can award it the Badger of Honor. There's a lady that lives right across from an entrance to my neighborhood and everyone in my neighborhood thinks she's batshit crazy because every afternoon she sits in her car in her driveway behind a giant electric fence, just waiting. And anything that comes near should expect a phone call to the police, along with stay off my damn property. Even if no real threat was made. Apparently she's also had a poor history with the police herself. Probably attacked a kid at some point. Growing up, when me and my neighbor would be standing outside waiting for the school bus, we'd see Mary Ann, our elderly neighbor across the street. Sometimes she'd be standing in her front window just staring daggers at us. Other times she'd be crawling around her front yard in a nightgown holding a double-barreled shotgun. Greater than other times she'd be crawling around her front yard in a nightgown holding a double-barreled shotgun. What the fuck? I live in a very suburban, American dream 1950s kind of neighborhood, and the sketchiest thing that goes down there is when my neighbor doesn't say hi back. Dude, I have a couple neighbors that don't wave or say hi and we live in the Midwest and those are the goddamn rules. Nobody says anything to anyone here in Silicon Valley. It's an incredibly weird, self-serving place to live. A lot of very bright people who have absolutely no social skills. I'm pretty sure the owner of a takeaway near our house is selling drugs. The place has only a handful of customers every night and it should have gone out of business a long time ago. Alas, it's still open and all sort of shady people gather in front of it as closing time approaches. The other shady thing happened a few months ago. One night, a neighbor was rushed at the hospital. He is 70 or 75 years old and very overweight. Everybody, his family included, thought he had a heart attack. It turned out he tried to become a sugar daddy for a 25-year-old woman, but was too cheap and didn't give enough money, so he got his ass beaten up by some of her friends. How did you find out what really happened to your neighbor? Also, why try and become a sugar daddy if you're too cheap to pay them out? We got to know the sugar daddy's story by chance a few months after it happened through a mutual friend of the wannabe sugar daddy. The neighborhood my husband and I live is rather small and gossiping is a national sport here. Basically, the sugar daddy is divorced and lives by himself, so that's why he managed to keep his family in the dark about his hospitalization. He lives in the mansion he inherited from his father, he drives a nice car and he's generally well off. I think he overestimated his wealth or underestimated what a sugar baby may cost. He's doing fine now. Sometimes I still see him around. A small, popular, family-owned restaurant in the neighborhood shares their property with a family-owned cafe. The cafe part caught fire a few weeks ago suddenly, and the site was completely cleared of any indoor debris within a day and a half, stopping the beginning police search before it could be finished. Within half a day of the fire, the restaurant workers and locals heard a rumor saying arson, but before the police could continue the search, the debris was gone. It's not like it even burned to the ground or anything, it easily looked repairable. But it is now just a flat patch of gravel and the search is essentially over since all the evidence is gone. Kinda shady. Garden competition, fighting, love triangles, stalking, sabotage, accusations, escalation, murder, speculation, trials, convictions. Hydrangeas. I'd watch this show. I believe it was called Desperate Housewives. There's some arsehole who lives at the end of the street somewhere with a hot drug dealer car with all blacked out windows who keeps flying down the small residential road at blinding speeds, revving the engine and damn near killing some people. He knocked a mirror off a car the other day. We are positive it was him. None of us actually saw it but heard the engine and the smash. Some of the guys may go down there with pitchforks soon. Put in illegal speed bumps like Tilda Walter White Tilda Hal did. All of the real estate agents sleep with each other's wives. #suburblife. Not Phil Dunphy. I can't be satisfied. The hoa sent letters to me to edge my sidewalk but my neighbor's jungle is okay. It doesn't matter how many times I edge it. Maybe he is sending them to the wrong person. There is a chicken plague going on. Our neighbor has high trees, and you frequently hear chicken noises from the trees. You'll see a horde of chickens cross the street when you're driving by, and sometimes you'll see literally hundreds of them in a front yard nearby. Nobody knows where they came from. There's even been a dispute between a few neighbors that made the newspapers over these chickens. I live in a small town where hardly anything ever happens, but almost every single night I hear screaming or some other random sounds coming from somewhere around my neighborhood. I have no idea what is going on and I don't want to know. Fox is having sexy fun time. Or rabbits being eaten. Or both. There's been a police cruiser sitting in front of a known drug den on my street coming at the same time every day, and staying for exactly 2.5 hours. I have no idea if they're trying to do surveillance or just freak him out. Greater than I have no idea if they're trying to do surveillance if they're in a police cruiser sitting in front of the house. Their surveillance isn't all that subtle. They're probably doing light surveillance but at the same time want to send the message we know what you're doing. My neighbors erected a massive flagpole and each day they put a new flag up there. I can't for the life of me figure out why, but they're either bored or it's for nefarious purposes that I am not perceptive enough to figure out. Also, 2 kangaroos had a fight on my road last week. Wondering if they're somehow involved in the flag shenanigans. Every post by Australians, stupid foreigners thinking we ride kangaroos. Also every post by Australians, kangaroo street fights. I mean, it's how we figure out if you'll be wary of the drop bears. Several neighbors have shady chickens. Those little criminal bastards sometimes even come in my yard and eat my bugs, and litter their eggs around. You see litter, I see free eggs. Oh, believe me, we eat every egg that Penelope leaves us. Yes, that's one of the chickens' name. I live facing into a crescent. Every morning and many evenings a 20-ish-year-old girl leaves the house at the other side of the crescent to walk to the buzz. Often there is a man of about the same age waiting around the corner for her. He is often crouching under a tree, face covered. When he sees her he jumps up and rushes to her. Often he is crying and begging and telling her that he loves her. Sometimes they argue and sometimes they talk for a long time. Sometimes he hands her a gift, like an entire book of what appears to be handwritten notes or poetry. He generally carries her backpack for her as she walks to the buzz. She walks about 15 feet ahead of him. She is dating and lives with a completely different man and his parents in that crescent. I don't know who this other guy is. Personally, I'd approach her and make sure she's not being harassed or stalked because this sounds terrifying. At least if you see him you could call the police. I've tried approaching them twice as I am always walking my dogs in the morning and evening when I see them. They always hurry away. I assume, since she is the one yelling at him in a negative way, "EA, I hate you," and he's the one crying and declaring his love, that it's an ex-boyfriend trying to win her back. She does seem to have the upper hand here. Myself and another neighbor have a front window view, so we are both keeping an eye out. That neighbor has also managed to establish some contact, so lines of communication are slowly being opened. Drug dealers. A lot of them. I remember a very polite drug dealer who lived near me years ago. I waved as I drove by his corner one time, and that started it. Every time he saw me / recognized the car, he'd get a goofy smile and a wave. Always liked that guy. He was definitely a dealer, because many times I'd seen people give him cash and then he'd go to his stash behind a dumpster. I live in a different area now after my next door neighbor was shot and killed after someone kicked in their front door. Now the shadiest thing that happens is a mysterious dog craps in my yard. I, too, have polite drug dealers down the street. They are always quiet, their guests never block the street, they're friendly if we're both out at the same time, etc. We have many neighbors who don't seem to be engaging in anything particularly illegal, who could learn a thing or five about living politely from our friendly neighborhood dealers. Sometimes my friend comes over to my house and says stuff like, "You know there are people smoking crack down there?" Or, "I think your neighbors are drug dealers." And I'm like, so? Seriously? They are some of the best neighbors we have. My parents' house is in one of the nicest, safest, and most expensive boroughs in London, where 3 bedrooms easily sell for £1 million. One of the 1.5 million houses, edit, a 5-bedroom at best guess, possibly more like 1.3 mil, caught on fire recently because it was being used to grow weed and the firefighters couldn't get in because the whole place was booby-trapped. That's idyllic London borough life for you. Booby-trapped how? Tripwire and barbed wire, mostly, I believe. Stuff that'd really put off burglars and squatters if they realized the house didn't have much foot traffic, but I don't know the exact details. They sprayed water on the outside and on the adjacent buildings to stop it spreading, and once they got in they stopped it pretty quickly. You can probably guess that the smell was rather strong. Meth and more meth. The miles of woods around my house are filled with roving meth heads equipped with burglary tools. They also have little campsites where they live and set up shake and bake labs. Most, if not all, are wanted on warrants. They do sweeps down here occasionally to round all them up, but it's extremely hard because local law enforcement is seriously undermanned. On top of that, when they do arrest one of these people, the court immediately just lets them go and they come right back to the woods. They never show up for their court dates, so they just hang out in the woods with warrants until the process repeats itself. Our local court system is a joke. When they finally do pin one of them down, they never put them in jail, just give them probation. It's why they're so brazen. They know they will never actually go to jail for it. Edit, this is TN for those asking. Edit 2, Dixon County. They ever attack people? No. They're cowardly little cockroaches that scuttle away when the light is turned on. We had this woman not too long ago pop out of the woods by our house. Bug-eyed, pouring sweat, and geeked out of her mind. She had a garden hoe with a sawed-off handle. We were home but both our cars were gone. We were working in the yard and she didn't even see us. Watched her come crashing out of the woods, through the creek, and through a bunch of blackberry bushes. She wasn't even fazed by those bushes. They tore her up too. She was covered in bloody scratches. We watched her walk up to the side of the house and start peering in the windows. That's when she spotted us. Screamed at us, "AHM, just taking a hike motherfuckers," and tore off the other direction and back into the woods. I actually have cell numbers belonging to our local cops. That's a whole nother story right there, and so I texted one of them to let him know what happened and where she was if he wanted to come scoop her up. She's already wanted. He obliged and arrested her. She was released immediately and right back down here in less than 24 hours. I saw her the other day shambling around the fishing hole up the road with her sawed-off hoe. We never leave our house unattended because of these people. Nobody down here can. It sucks. We've tried to move but nobody wants to buy our house, so for the time being we're stuck here. I'm fairly certain that the church down the street is actually a cult. I've never seen a Christian ceremony where they march down the street chanting every month like they do. Also, they are very inconsiderate, not giving those in the neighborhood any warning that they are going to be doing this. It has caused me to be late for work before, and I know they aren't pulling any permits to have their little parades. Call the cops next time. They don't have the right to shut down a street like that without a permit. By the time the cops get there they'd be done. They last all of maybe 15 minutes and the cops in this city take forever to get anywhere. Yesterday morning around 6 AM I woke up to my neighbors screaming on their front lawn. My neighbor was out there throwing shit at her husband while her friend videotaped it all from the front door. I don't know what happened, but usually people don't get thrown out of their house at 6 AM for no reason. Greater than while her friend videotaped it all from the front door. This is the thing I'm most confused about given the context, and it being 6 AM. My parents live in a conservative neighborhood full of elderly people who have lived there for decades. One of the neighbors retired to Florida and a biker gang bought the house and use it as a meeting place. My parents think it's hilarious, but the other neighbors are horrified. It's in the gang's best interest to keep crime rates low in your neighborhood. If there's ever any retaliation from a rival gang, then you're in trouble. Source: grew up near a biker gang territory. At first people liked when La Familia came to town because petty crime went down. Then people realized they're still a gang and vigilante justice isn't always great either. I know a lady who started sewing patches on a biker's vest she happened to meet one day at the bar. After doing it a few times, he started bringing his friends. After a while she started doing the whole chapter's vests. She mentioned to them one time that her neighbors were drug addicts. They told her not to worry, they'd take care of it. Within a week both houses were empty and some guys from the gang started renting the houses around her. She's pretty much a member now and she doesn't know how to get out, lol. Some kids are riding ATVs and dirt bikes in little packs on the streets. They're also riding in protected areas where off-roading is prohibited. The other day someone ran over a couple of people in one of these areas and killed them. Investigation is ongoing. Edit: it is now known that 2 people were hit and killed by someone on an ATV. Police are being tight with the info. This area is a known destination for the kids on bikes. Unknown at this point whether arrests will be made. Is this Baltimore or Philly by any chance? Only places I've seen groups of people on dirt bikes and ATVs riding down streets in packs. I have seen the packs street riding in Philly when visiting, but no, this is the suburbs of a mid-sized city in the south. I don't think it's going on anymore. 2 of my neighbors are in a fight. I heard a rumor she once threw cake at him from her balcony. Once I caught him following her and looking where she went. Creepy. He has mental issues, but he calmed down when he got grandchildren. Now he just practices shooting in his backyard and goes around with a lamp at night. He cut down a perfect cherry tree because birds used to hang out there in the morning and chirp. Greater than now he just practices shooting in his backyard. Oh good. My hood, neighbors across the street have a loud, dramatic, public breakup on the street whenever they have friends over. Last time he apparently found out she had been talking to some bloke in prison on Instagram. The time before that she found out he was on Tinder. Fortunately this always happens around 8 PM on weekends, so it's not a nuisance, more entertainment. My brother's hood, a guy is dealing drugs near the train station. He rides a tiny dirt bike thing, so whenever the cops come he takes off into the nearby bush. He has fun with it though, often makes them chase him around in circles. Total mad cunt. Somebody leaves an empty can of Monster Energy drink in my front yard every once in a while. Damn it, Kyle. I find it surprisingly hard to tell the difference between fireworks and gunshots. Gunshot or fireworks is a fun game to play on the 4th of July. Bonus round, Nye. I just moved but I already have suspicions about the pigeon who nests above the porch. What are you up to, bird? Your chicks are fledged, so why are you still hanging around casing my house? Ice cream truck comes through after dark, sometimes around midnight. I don't think they're selling just ice cream. Edit. Okay, here are some more details since this blew up. I've only heard the ice cream truck play music once after dark around 10:30 p.m. He drove down my street playing Frere Jacques. Our little neighborhood is only 4 streets, only one way in or out. The driver definitely doesn't live there. He does stop after dark. I've seen a small crowd standing by his truck when driving past. Does he also play a song? Edit. All these bitches wanna lick my ice cream, Borgor. I'm going to guess Magic Carpet Ride, by